Hello everybody. Today we're going to be working on our Australia map exercise. We're going to be doing something called a screencast. It's a little different from the way we've done things in the past, but I think that you guys will enjoy it. Let's begin. Notice that you have two maps, Australia Map A and Australia Map B. Right now we're looking at Australia Map A. And notice that we have two large land masses. Now the very big one right here, and then a smaller one over here. We're going to be learning about both of these. Now the first one, the big one, is Australia. And I'd like for you to go ahead and label Australia on Australia Map A. The other landmass is made up of two very large islands right here. This landmass is New Zealand. Well, I didn't want to do that. New Zealand. And I would like for you to go ahead and label New Zealand on your map. Put your label somewhere in this area. You could probably write your label a lot smaller than mine. Now what we're going to learn over the course of this unit is that these two countries have a lot of similarities, but they are two different countries, two very different countries. And even though on this map they appear very close to each other, there's really more than 1,000 miles between them. So a great deal of distance right there. What we're looking at now is a section of Australia Map A. And on this particular section of the map, you can see that it is divided into several different sections. These are the states and territories of Australia. And there are actually 7 states and territories that you're going to need to know for your test and for your quizzes. And just so you'll know where they are, let's see, we've got a big one right there. There's a second one. There's the third one. There we see a pointy one, that's number 4. Number 5. Number 6 is right here. And then right here we've got an island. That is the 7th one. So these are the 7 states and territories that you're going to need to know. The first state that I would like for you to label on Australia Map A is this large one way out here on the western side of the continent. The name of this particular this particular state is Western Australia. And so I would like for you to go ahead and take a minute to label that. And again, you could probably write small enough to actually write it in the borders of the state, right there. Go ahead and label Western Australia. Our next territory that we're going to label is this one right here. And again, you should be able to write your label inside the borders of this particular territory. This one is the Northern Territory. And again, you should be able to write your label a little bit smaller than mine. I'll give you a second to go ahead and finish that one off. Our next state that we're going to label is this one right here. And again, I'd like for you to write your label inside this particular state. This one is South Australia. Go ahead and take a second to label South Australia. Again, you can probably write it inside the border, or you can write it off to the side like I did and probably just draw a line up to it. The next state that we're going to label is this one right here. Again, you should be able to write your label inside the border of this state, or again off to the side somewhere. This one is a very unusual looking state. It's got this point right there. Should make it easy for you to identify. This is Queensland. And again, I wrote the label out very big. You could probably write it much smaller. Queensland. The next state that we're going to label is this one right here. Very important state in Australia. This one is New South Wales. Sounds just like the mammal, the very large mammal, spelled a little differently. There's no H. Again, you should be able to write your label inside the border of that state or somewhere off to the side. I'll give you a second to write that down. Our sixth state or territory is this one right here. It's obviously a lot smaller than the others that we've looked at. This is the state of Victoria. And again, I'll give you a second to label that. You can probably write this one off to the side and then just have an arrow pointing to it. I'll give you a second to complete that. The last state or territory that we're going to label is this one right here. This one is actually an island. And this is the state of Tasmania. And yes, that is where the Tasmanian devil lives. So we'll write that label off to the side of Tasmania somewhere. Maybe you would want to write it off on this side. And that is our seventh state or territory. And so just to reiterate right here, we have Western Australia. Here, we should have labeled the Northern Territory. Right here, we have the state of South Australia. The pointy one is Queensland. Right here, we have New South Wales. This is a very important state. Very small one here. This is Tasmania, or pardon me, this is Victoria. And then the seventh state or territory, it's the island down here by itself. This is Tasmania. There is one other Australian territory. It's right here, this little spot. This is the Australian Capital Territory. It is where Australia's capital is located. It's very similar in a lot of ways to Washington, D.C. It is an important part of Australia, but it's not one that I'm going to have you memorize for your tests or quizzes.